All right, welcome back, fifth graders. Let's go ahead and discuss adding unlike fractions. We talked about adding and subtracting unlike fractions. Now we're going to be talking about adding unlike fractions. So our objective, our goal, is when we get finished, is to be able to add unlike fractions and solve word problems, including unlike fractions. Go ahead and, if you would please, go ahead and open up your notebook. Go ahead and title up on top. We are dealing with Chapter 9, Lesson number 5. Title it Adding Unlike Fractions here. Put that up on your header, the top of your page, after our last lesson, which was 9, 2, and 3. You should have 9, 5, adding unlike fractions. All right, so let's take a look at some of our vocabulary. So we have one vocab term, and that's an unlike fraction. What's an unlike fraction? Well, we knew a like fraction is when the denominators were the same. So an unlike fraction, un meaning not or non, meaning that they are different. Okay? So we have an example here. 2/3, 3/5, 4/7. If you look carefully at the denominators of all of these fractions, none of them are like. This one has a denominator of 3. This one has a denominator of 5. This one has a denominator of 7. Now remember, that bottom part of the fraction, that is how many pieces we are cutting it into. So you notice this is cut into 3 pieces. This one is cut into 5 pieces. This one is cut into 7 pieces. Okay? That is our denominator. So when we have fractions and we need to add the two fractions together and they do not have a like denominator, we need to make it so that they do have a like denominator. So let's talk about exactly how we go about finding or making those like denominators. So these are the steps that we need to do. So if you'd go ahead and please title this in your notebook for me. These are the steps that you're going to be using. Go ahead and make a little heading here below your vocabulary that you just wrote down. Steps to solving unlike fractions. All right, number 1. First thing we need to do is we need to find our LCM, or our denominators. So let's go ahead and do that. We know how to find LCMs. Remember, those are the multiples. So we're going to look at our denominators. We have a 5 and we have a 4, right? So we're going to find our LCM for both the 5 and the 4. Where am I going to do this? Let's do it right here. So we are finding our LCM, our least common multiple. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Actually, I'm going to stop there at 20. And then our multiple for 4. I'm going to have to write a little smaller to fit this. I can do that. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. All right, so you will notice there that our LCM, we have 20 here and we have 20 here. So our LCM is going to be equal to 20. So let's go ahead and make those like fractions. So step number 2, make equivalent fractions by multiplying the numerators and denominators by the LCM. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So our LCM is going to be 20. It's going to be 20. So now we got to ask ourselves, all right, what am I multiplying 5 by to make it equal to 20? Well, I'm going to be multiplying it by 4, aren't I? So if I'm multiplying the bottom of the fraction by 4, I need to multiply the top of the fraction by the same number. So 3 times 4 is equal to 12. We're going to do the same thing down here. 4 times 5 is equal to 20, which means I need to multiply my top by 5 as well. These numbers will always be the same, the numbers that I am multiplying by. Just like these numbers will always be the same. I'm making equivalent fractions. Well, if you look now, we now have like fractions. We have a 20 here, and we have a 20 here. So this is just like what we did yesterday at this point. So now you're going ahead and you're taking the 12 and the 5, and we are going to add those together. That's what's being asked here. So 12 plus 5 is equal to 17. What do I do with this denominator? If you remember from yesterday, it stays the same. We're still cutting it into 20 pieces. That stays the same. We added the fractions. The last thing is, can we reduce this fraction? 17 and 20. Do they have any like fractions? Well, I know 17 is a prime number, so its only factors are 1 and 17. So nope, I cannot simplify 17 twentieths. That is my answer, 17 twentieths. So again, step 1, you're finding the LCM. That's what we did here. Number 2, you're making the equivalent fraction. So once we have figured out that our bottom of our new fraction is going to be 20. How do we do that? When we found our LCM, then we're going to go ahead and make those equivalent fractions. Number 3, go ahead and add those fractions now that you have like denominators. And then last step is, after you've added them, is you're going to simplify or reduce that fraction as needed. Sometimes you don't need to, like this example. Sometimes you will. Alright, so let's take a look at this question. Is the LCM always the product of the two denominators? Well, in our last problem, it was the product of the two denominators. Let's figure out the LCM of these two denominators. So we have, get red for a pen, we have 8 and we have 10. So let's figure out, let's go over here to the side. Let me write down the multiples of 8. So we have 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. I don't think I need to go much beyond that, right? What are our multiples of 10? Well, that's pretty easy, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, and there we have. So what would have happened if I would have found the product of these two numbers? Well, if I would have taken 8 times 10, that would be 80. So as you can see here, I have a much smaller LCM. 40 is smaller than 80. And we want to use the smallest LCM we possibly can. It'll save us simplifying after we have gotten our answer. We all like to have less work. So let's make sure we follow those directions. Alright, so we now know 40 is going to be our denominator. So we're going to go ahead and make that 40, and we're going to go ahead and make that 40. And now we got to ask ourselves, alright, what am I multiplying by 8 to make it equal to 40? Well, 8 times 5 is 40. So that means I got to multiply my top of my fraction by the same number. 5 times 5 is 25. What am I multiplying 10 to equal 40? Well, 10 times 4 is equal to 40, right? Oops, I forgot to put the equal signs up here. So I got to do the same thing. Am I multiplying this by 4 or 5? No, I'm multiplying this by 4. 3 times 4. These will always be the same. These will always be the same. Whatever you multiply one at the top, you're going to multiply the bottom, and vice versa. So 3 times 4 is equal to 12. Alright, now I have a like fraction, meaning that my denominators are the same. So you notice we have 40 here, and we have 40 here. So our whole is cut into 40 pieces. Now we just have to add the numerators. We have 25 and 12. We are adding those together over here. So let's go ahead and add those. 5 plus 2 in the ones column is equal to 7. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. So that leaves me 37 40ths. About ran out of room there. 37 40ths. Can I simplify 37 40ths? Well, 37 I know is a prime number. So, nope, there's nothing I can simplify that. That is already in simplest terms. 37 40ths is going to be our answer. All right, let's put one more example here in our notes. We have 2/5 plus 1/2. Now, one of the things we always want to do is we want to write it one on top of the other rather than writing it side by side like that. So you're going to get problems that are that way, that are horizontal, but we want to write them vertical, one on top of the other. So I'm going to go ahead and do that over here. I'm going to go ahead and write 2/5 equals, and I'm going to write 1/2 equals. Well, why do I know that? Because if I look at these two denominators, I see that they are not the same. So we're dealing with that unlike denominator. And if we have unlike denominators, we got to go through our steps. First one is finding our LCM. So if we have 5 and 2, what are our, let's see, let's put it over here. So I'll do multiples of 5, 10, 15, 20. I don't need to go much beyond that. Our multiples of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I can stop because I have a 10 here and a 10 here. So that is going to be my denominator. 10 it is. So that is going to be equal to 10. That is going to be equal to 10. I'm going to multiply both of these. So 5 times 2 is equal to 10, which means I got to multiply this times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. I got to multiply the bottom of this next fraction. 2 times 5 is equal to 10, which means I got to multiply the top by the same number, 5. Now, it's just a matter of going ahead and adding. So let's go ahead and take those two top numbers. We have a 4 and we have a 5. We're adding 4 plus 5. That's equal to 9. Last step, can we simplify or reduce 9/10? Is there a common factor between 9 and 10? There is no common factor other than 1. So it is already simplified. 9/10 is our answer. I'd like you guys to go ahead and work on number 2. Pause the video, solve it, and then come back for your answer if you would, please. All right, how did we do? Let's go ahead and solve this, see how you did. So we have 3/4 and 2/8. Now looking at those denominators, I can see that they are different numbers. We have a 4 and we have an 8. So let's go ahead and write those up here. I need to find a common denominator. I need to have a denominator that is the same number so I can add these two fractions together. So let's go ahead and figure out what is our LCM. Our LCM would be 8. All right, so now I got to figure out what do I multiply 4 to make it equal to 8. That would be 2. So of course I'm multiplying this by 2 as well. 3 times 2 is 6. 3/4 is equal to 6/8. I got to do the same thing for my other fraction here. 8 times 1 is equal to 8. 1 times 1 is equal to 1. Of course, if you think about it, 1/8 is equal to 1/8, right? It's kind of what it is. That makes it kind of simple. Now we just have to go ahead and add. Numerator, numerator, we're adding those two together. So 6 plus 1. That's going to be the top of our fraction. Our numerator, 6 plus 1 is 7. Our denominator, we're still cutting it into 8 pieces. That hasn't changed. Can we simplify 7/8? Is there a factor, I'll spit it out yet, between 7 and 8? Well, 7's a prime number. So just 1 and 7 is only factors. So there is nothing. It is already in simplest terms, 7/8. Hope you got that one right. All right, guys, I'd like you to try a couple of these problems. If you try problem number 3 and number 5 for me. So on a piece of scratch paper or in your notes, go ahead and work those two problems out. Pause the video now, and then come back for the solution to see if you got your problem worked out correctly. All right. The solution. All right, let's go ahead and do number 3 here. So again, I want to write it vertically. So I want to write 1/3 plus 1/5. Draw my line. I know I need to make my common denominator because the 3 and the 5 here, they are not like denominators. I need to make them like denominators. So what is going to be my common denominator? My LCM in this case is going to be 15. I'm going to write 15 as my common denominator between those two. What am I multiplying 3 by to make it equal to 15? That would be 5, which means I got to multiply the 1 times 5 as well. New equivalent fraction. I got to multiply this 5 by 3 to make it equal to 15, so I need to multiply the top number by 3 as well. Make our equivalent fractions. All right, so now that we have common denominators, our denominators are both 15, we can go ahead and take these two numerators, the 5 and 3, add them together. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8, 8/15. Can I simplify 8/15? Well, the factors of 8, 1 and 2 and 4 and 8, none of those go into 15, so it is already in the simplest form. 8/15. So we got that one right. Let's take a look at number 5 here. Let me go ahead and grab my black pen. We'll rewrite this. So we have 5/12, and we're adding 1/4 to that 5/12. Draw my line, make my equal signs, make my fraction line. Why am I making my fraction line? Because I noticed that it does not have a common denominator. Look at those, 4 and 12. So, step 1, we've got to go ahead and find our LCM. What is our least common multiple there? Well, if we're getting multiples of 4, 4, 8, 12, bingo. Because I already know that 12 is going to be a multiple of 12. That's what we start with, right? 12, 24, 36, don't need to go any further. 12 is going to be our common denominator. Oops, I was writing 20 there. 12. All right, now we just got to make our equivalent fractions. 12 times 1 is equal to 12. 5 times 1 is equal to 5. That one's pretty simple. All right, what are we multiplying 4 by to make it equal to 12? 4 times 3, which means I got to multiply my top by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. All right, so now let's go ahead and add these two numerators, the top of our fractions. 5 plus 3, that is equal to 8. Our denominator just comes right on down. We're still cutting it into 12 pieces. 8/12. Can I simplify 8/12? Well, let's think about the factors of 8 and the factors of 12. The factors of 8 and 12, I know 2 goes in, but even a bigger number than 2, 4 goes into both 8 and 12. They're both factors. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12, so they're both factors. 4 is a factor of both of them. So we're going to go ahead and factor this out, divide both the top and the bottom by 4, and make our simplified fraction. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 2/3 is our simplified fraction. That would be the correct answer. Hopefully you got that correctly. All right, let's take a look at one of these word problems here. If you'd go ahead and read this and solve it, and then come back for the answer. So go ahead and pause the video, and then come back for the answer after you've completed your problem. So let's take a look at this. So it says, Angel has 2 chores after school. She rakes leaves for 3/4 of an hour and spends half an hour washing the car. How long does Angel spend on her chores in all? That is our key. Whenever we see in all, we know we are going to be adding. That is our clue. When we're getting a total, in all is getting a total. We're adding. So let's go ahead and add these two. So 3/4 of an hour and a half an hour. Let's add these two together. 3/4. Again, we're writing one on top of the other. And I know I'm going to have to make new equivalent fractions because my denominators are not the same. So what is our common denominator here? Well, I know our LCM is going to be 4. So let's go ahead and make these equivalent fractions. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. 1 times 2 is equal to 2. And 3/4 is going to be equal to 3/4. Since I'm adding on to that, they are the same, excuse me, the same fractions. So let's go ahead and add these. 3, 2. What's 3 plus 2? 3 plus 2 is 5. So it leaves us 5/4. Well, we have an improper fraction here. Remember how we solve improper fraction? Remember improper fraction, 5/4. We're asking ourselves, all right, if we're making fourths here, if we're cutting these into 4 pieces, it's kind of like writing our fraction this way. If I am making groups of 4 here, and I have 5, I can make one whole group, which is going to leave me 1 left over, which is going to leave me 1 1/4. Remember that remainder, that's our numerator. Our denominator, that's what we're adding by. Okay, that stays the same. So 1 1/4 is our simplified fraction. We have changed it from an improper fraction into a mixed number. We learned that a while ago. So 1 1/4 is our simplified mixed number in this case. All right, so let's go ahead and think about what we learned today. So what did we talk about today? We talked about the steps of how to change our denominators so we can make them like fractions, change unlike fractions into like fractions so we can add the two. We can't add unlike fractions. We have to have them the same. So we learned those steps of how to do that, churning those like fractions into, or unlike fractions into like fractions.